And it took this weight meeting for me to realize that carbs had a control on my life. And nothing was going to show me that. Nothing anybody said, nothing anybody, if somebody like tried to say, don't eat that cake or don't eat that dessert or don't eat that, that salad or whatever. You don't need all that dressing on that salad. You could have talked to me until you're blue in the face. But until I was led down this path, then I was not going to realize that I needed this.
Ron, how did you find the carnivore diet?
I found the carnivore diet when I was trying to find ways for my wife to lose weight. She has no thyroid and she also has celiac disease. So she's been doing keto since 2012. And she does about max of 20 carbs a day. And she's constantly, well, she slowly gains weight or stays the same. But if she goes above that 20 carb threshold, then she definitely gains weight. And we've been fighting this since 2012, since she lost her thyroid. So she's been, back before April, she was really getting to a peak of her frustration. And so I was like, just trying to figure out something for her. And we were both going to the doctor in April, and we had blood work done before we went. I kind of been in denial about my weight. And one reason why I'm in denial is because my scale only goes up to 400 pounds. So I didn't know how much I weighed. I had no clue how much I weighed because I'd get the error. So I thought, I'm pretty close to 400. It's just going to weigh me. So I can't be doing that bad. So when we went to the doctor, I got on their scale and it weighed me, and I saw 440 come up on the scale. And it was at that moment when I looked down and saw that number, I was like, this is crazy. What am I doing to myself? And so I was trying to figure out for her and trying to figure out for me. And I came across, I just put in a search and I did no thyroid, autoimmune issues, need to lose weight. And the first thing that comes up is Dr. Barry's interview with Kelly Hogan. And so I put that on. I'm like, well, let's just see what's going on with this video. And my wife was gone at the time. And so I started watching this video. And I'm sitting there going, my wife is already doing keto. She's already doing low carb. She's already eliminated all kinds of stuff. She's not doing gluten. So I wonder if she'd be open to trying this just to see what it would do for her. So I decided, this sounded like a good thing, but I needed her buy-in on it, if that's something she'd want to try. So we watched the video together. And as we're watching the video, she goes, "Oh, I've heard of Dr. Barry and I've heard of Kelly," because the KetoCon had just happened, or what, Keto Palooza or whatever it's called at that time, in April. And she goes, "That just happened." And she follows a lot of keto people on Instagram. And one of the persons that she follows, her name's Keto in Court. It's Stacy. She's a court reporter here in Texas. And she said, yeah, she mentions both of them a lot. And so I was like, okay, let's watch this video and see what you think. Well, she goes, well, I've eliminated pretty much everything. What's the problem with just eating meat? So I'll do anything right now just to see if it'll work for me. So at that point, when she said, yeah, I'll do it, I said, well, you know what? We just went to the doctor. I need to lose weight. And I'm a big meat eater anyway. So I was like, this is a win-win for me, because if she's going to do it, that means we're just going to buy more meat and I will have to eat all the other stuff. So I was like, I'm going to do this with you, because I'm going to be the supportive husband and I'm going to, be in there and we're going to do this together. Well, I didn't think, but I started this on April 24th that it would do what it did. And when I went back to the doctor on April the 11th, because she had started with my blood work and everything, she started me on testosterone replacement therapy, and I had low thyroid. So she put me on a thyroid replacement, and I was low vitamin D and vitamin B12. So she put me on injectable vitamin B12 to go along with my injectable testosterone, because the testosterone will deplete your vitamin B12. So I was doing the injectable on both of those, the thyroid, the vitamin D supplement, and trying to think what else. Oh, and my blood work showed that I was fighting an infection. I don't know, but she put me on an antibiotic, a low dose antibiotic for a month. So she wanted me to come back in April, on April the 11th, or sorry, May the 11th. And when I went back on May the 11th, I got on the scale and I weighed 420 pounds. And she was like, okay, you lost 20 pounds in a month. I know it's not because I gave you all this medication. So what the heck are you doing? And I said, well, I talked to my wife before I went back to the doctor. Went back to her, and I said, do you think I ought to mention doing carnivore? And because I heard all the horror stories, watching all the videos and things. And she's like, well, I don't know. I said, well, you know what? I got to be totally open with her. I can't just say it's because of the medicine or whatever that I'm taking that I've done this. I got to tell her what I'm doing so she knows what's going on with me. So I told her, I said, well, I'm doing this thing. It's an elimination, like extremely low carb. And have you ever heard of anything called the carnivore diet? And her first response to me, I mean, it wasn't even a delay. She just said, yeah, that's what Dr. Peterson does. And I was like, okay, so you know about Jordan Peterson, you know about what he does and his daughter and everything. So she goes, oh yeah, you keep doing that. It's working. So you keep doing that, and I just want you to come back every month. And so I was like, okay, well, I went back in June, but in May, I said, well, I'm having this little pain in my back. And she was like, well, let's get a sonogram, let's get a chest x-ray, because you haven't had any of that. Let's make sure that your organs are fine and that your heart's fine and all that. So I went and had that scheduled for the end of May. And I went and had the sonogram done and the chest x-ray. So I was going back in June. So I went back in June, and I lost another 16 pounds, and I was 404. So I got the information about my sonogram and my x-ray. X-ray was fine, nothing wrong. My heart was normal looking. It wasn't enlarged or anything. The sonogram showed I had an enlarged spleen, slightly enlarged spleen, not huge or anything. And also had a slight fatty liver. But she said, that's all your blood work and your enzymes are good. I'm not worried about that. You just keep doing this diet, this way of eating, and we'll worry about that on your next blood work, which I'm going to go back on October the 18th is my next day to go back to her, and I'm having blood work again. So I'm going to have basically my 6-month blood work in October. So we'll see what all's going on inside me and find out, the dreaded cholesterol question and the how my thyroid, my thyroid is responding to the meat. I could only did the thyroid replacement for 3 months. And I wanted to know what the testosterone was doing in me. So I stopped it about, I would say, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, because I wanted to know if the diet adds to it and not just the testosterone replacement. So I've stopped those, and we're going to go back in October, and we're going to find out. My wife, since starting this, has lost 16 pounds. Well, yeah, 16. And no, she's lost 17 pounds. I'm sorry. She has lost 17 pounds since we started this. And I was, as of my 5-month time on this, I have lost 89 pounds in 5 months. So I am stoked about the weight loss. I'm, love that my wife's losing weight. She's on beta blockers and thyroid replacement. And so she's got an uphill battle with losing weight, but she has lost 16 pounds. And it's the first time that she's actually decreased weight in the amount of time in 5 months. Usually in this 5-month time, she may increase 1 or 2 pounds or something like that. She's actually decreased. So that is a great benefit. That's mainly why I did this, was for her. I am just a side effect sort of because I was not planning on this and I'm doing this with her. But the benefits have been awesome as far as what has happened. I've had like an increase in my energy. I have, not only lost the 89 pounds, but some of the things that have happened to me is before I started this, I had a brown ring that went around my neck. And I was, wondering what this ring was. And when you look it up, they call it like acanthosis nigricans or something like that is what they call it. And it's one of the reasons why is due to insulin resistance. And probably within 3 months, I would say, it went away. I mean, it was a dark ring. I mean, my wife would see it when I, walk into a room. But it's gone. Skin tags have kind of shrunk a little bit. I still have some, but they're drying up and getting hard. I had one of them down. It was like a long one, and it's shrinking up. So I'm just like, hear about insulin resistance and skin tags. And so those are actually going away. Another thing that's happened is I am basically off of two kinds of blood pressure medicine. I was on, trying to think, Verapamil and also olmesartan. I was taking olmesartan in the morning and Verapamil at night. And I stopped the Verapamil about 4 months into it. And then I stopped the olmesartan in the morning. And my blood pressure has been between 117 to 133 over around the 70s to maybe an 80, maybe an 81, but not like it was. I was like 159, 160 over 90 or something like that. But with even taking the medication, it was still fighting it. And that's one reason why I was taking one in the morning and one at night. But I'm off of both of those. And one of the side effects of blood pressure medicine is swelling in your legs. Well, I have edema in my left leg. And before I stopped taking the blood pressure medicine, the edema has shrunk. Matter of fact, my whole body has shrunk. I've gone from a total of, I took measurements a month into it, maybe, well, it was a month and a half into it. It was at the beginning of June. I did measurements over my body to see where I was at. And I took another measurement the very 1st of September. And between June and September, I'd lost 24 inches total on my body. That was for my neck, mostly my chest, my stomach, and my rear area. That's where I lost it. I didn't really lose a whole lot. I lost maybe 2 or 3 inches in my left leg because of the edema. But everything else has shrunk. And I was just like, I couldn't believe that it actually added up to 24 inches. I was like, there's no way, I at that point I'd lost like maybe 65, 70 pounds when I did that measurement. But I was like, I was in denial. There's no way that, maybe I've measured it wrong the first time or something like that. How can you lose 24 inches? But I was like, okay, well, 24 inches is 24 inches, and clothes are fitting so much differently now. I mean, I'm scared to death because, I'm luckily had some of my older clothes from when I was smaller, but I just can't go out and buy clothes. That's one of the bad things about doing this way of eating. When you get up to 440 pounds and you lose almost 90 pounds, you're like, things fit you differently. Oh no, I can't go out there and buy clothes. And what if I buy clothes now and I lose another 50 pounds? It's like, I'll just hold off until I lose, until I get to a point. But I actually put on a 3X shirt the other day and could wear it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. Like, I'm not used to seeing 3X. I was almost a 6, and some of my shirts were 6, but they were a little bit big on me. But I was like, nah, Like, I want to lose weight, but I don't want to buy clothes. So I guess that's a good and bad thing, to think about. But I'm off the meds. One thing I did have, and one of the concerns I had about doing this way of eating was gout. I've had gout. My dad has gout. I've been doctor put me on alpurinol at the highest dose, and I think it was like 300 or 400 milligrams, and it still wasn't phasing it on me. And so I went to Uloric, and I tried 40 milligrams of Uloric, and that didn't really do much. So I went to 80, and it finally did something. Well, when I started this way of eating, I was like, I don't know. I don't, all the meat, what's that going to do? So I started looking up videos on that. And who do you think I found? What was the first person I found that actually told me, about gout and this way of eating? Of course, it's Dr. Berry. You're right. So I watch his video, and I watch some other people too. And I'm like, okay, I've got to know if what I do on this, what it's going to do to my body. And I love what Dr. Berry said, though, in the video, is like, your body has the uric acid, and you naturally have purines in your body. So eating meat will be adding uric acid and purines to your body, like emptying a container of salt in the ocean would be adding salt to the ocean. So it's not the uric acid, it's not the purines and all that you're adding to your body that's causing the gout. What's the problem is you have all this inflammation that's going on that your kidneys aren't able to process the buildup in your body and get rid of it and flush it out. And what I find very ironic about gout is one of their treatments, I would say, is tart cherry juice. So I was like, tart cherry juice is one of their remedies, or to do while you're not taking as much medication to give you some relief. Well, one of the things I used to take was it's a capsule form called Gouch. And that's Gouch, and it's just the cherry extract and another form of herb or something that's in there, and it's supposed to help alleviate the uric acid buildup in your body. So I would take those, and those actually worked. But when I was watching Dr. Berry, he's like, fructose is one of the biggest reasons why your body actually builds up, and you have these inflammation of the gout crystals that accumulate in your body. Well, my gout, I wouldn't get it like in my toe or my fingers or something like a lot of people do. Mine would actually stop and reside in my knees, and especially my left knee, where I also have this edema. And I think that had something to do with the blood flow and everything going in my leg with all the inflammation. But it was debilitating because I couldn't even walk. I had a job that I had to go up and down stairs and cross over these production lines, and I was moving all over the place, and I was having a hard time even going from my car to my desk. And then I had to go and do all this stuff. So I was like, you know what, if this flares up, then I don't need that with all the meat. But then I heard Dr. Berry and all that and all the other things. And I haven't had one flare up. As a matter of fact, I haven't even taken my medicine. So I haven't taken any Uloric since I started this. I haven't had any flare ups of any kind. But another thing that I am no longer taking is I'm trying to see here. What else was I taking? I was taking the blood pressure. I was taking I'm not taking the thyroid. I'm not taking the testosterone replacement. I'm still doing the vitamin D. I'm doing about 10 to 20,000 units a day. And that's another thing. I see, they're talking about how, you can have too much vitamin D. But Dr. Berry, of course, says you'll get rid of it, and it's not going to be a problem if you take more. So I even saw this other doctor. I can't even think of his name right now, but he's kind of back and forth on low carb. He's like, sometimes he likes low carb, sometimes he doesn't. But he said, he takes like 50,000 units a day. And he's like, I never get sick or anything like that. So I was like, I'm not going to do 50,000 because that's what they, their little super dose they want you to take like once a week or twice a week. So I'm saying I'm just going to do 20, 10 to 20 a day. So I got it with the K2. And another thing I found out about vitamins is a lot of times they have oil in them, and you got to be careful about it because I wasn't even paying attention to seed oils and things. But a lot of the vitamins out there, especially the vitamin D, have a seed oil. Well, I decided to get the ones that had the coconut oil. And there's a vitamin company that you can get off of Amazon. It's a vitamin D. It's like 10,000 units plus K2, and it's with coconut oil. So I decided to get those and then make sure I would. I mean, I'm sure it's just a minor amount of oil, but still, I didn't want any of those in me. I didn't want to do any kind of seed oils whatsoever. So I'm still doing that, and I'm also doing magnesium daily. So I really do either a magnesium malate or taurate, or I don't really do the citrate because of the bad effects of magnesium citrate. Too much of that's not a good thing. So unless you're wanting to clean out your system, you don't want to do too much of that. So I kind of avoid that one. And of course, the glycinate. I got the glycinate for my son. My son's a T1 diabetic and type 1 diabetic, and they said a lot of the to get rid of the cortisol and to help with the numbers at night and so forth is to do magnesium glycinate. And so we started doing that with him. And when I did it with him, I started doing it myself. And oh my gosh, sleep is so much better with the glycinate. I used to get leg cramps at night, and my wife did too. We both, when we started adding that, and everybody's deficient in magnesium. And the blood work is not the test for magnesium because that's, it's going to pull it from everywhere else just to make your blood normal. So everybody, when you go and have a blood test, you're just, when you see that, like one, it's like a 1 milligram or whatever the number is, but you're generally going to be normal on your magnesium unless your body's depleted totally and you're in really bad shape. So, but I was like reading, listening to all that. The Michigan Foot Doctors. He has a really good video on magnesium that I would say everybody needs to watch because he talks about how for our systems and for all of our hormones and our nerve endings and everything else to work properly, you need the magnesium. So started doing that, and that's pretty much my supplements. Most of the stuff I get with my food. Now, talking about food, I do 1 meal a day, and I've been doing that. I went through last month the 72-hour fast. It was going to be 48-hour, and I've never done more than right now I'm doing 23 to 24 hours with only 1 meal a day, kind of what you do. But I think you do it in the morning, right? Okay. So you do it in the morning. I do mine in the evening after I get home from work or whatever. I just eat when I get home. But I decided to do a 48 to 72-hour fast. When I was doing 48 hours, I was like, well, when I decided to do it, I was like, well, I cannot eat tonight. So that's all right. I can go, one day. So I went to the next day and I was like, you know what? If I eat tonight, that'll be 48 hours. But you know what? I can go another day. So I went another day and I went to the next day and I was like, I actually made it 72 hours without eating. I didn't know I could do it. But the reason why I did it, and it's not because, I think everybody should do it, but the reason why I did it was because I was in a weight loss stall. And a lot of the reasons why, or a lot of the remedies they have for weight loss stall is they say, lower your stress. I'm not going to be able to lower my stress right now. That's not one of the things that you can just say, oh, I'm going to lower my stress in a day or two. Yeah, you can meditate or do yoga or whatever. No, that's not me. The other thing is they say that increase your exercise. Well, I'm 306. Well, now I'm 351, but at the time, last month I was about 300. I was 370 pounds at the time, and it was, it was 110 degrees here in Texas, and it was hot, and I wasn't about to go out there and put my body through all that type of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be increasing my exercise until probably about a month or two from now. So it's starting to cool down. We're supposed to have a cold front coming in, so it's supposed to be in the 70s by Thursday, I think, but it's still been in the upper 90s here. So, I see people that, they're all walking outside and everything. I'm like, well, you're not in Texas. So I'm not, you don't know what it's like. It's like, it's a difference if you live in Texas and Arizona than any other place. You can't just get out and walk. I mean, you bake. They showed videos back in the 80s of people cooking on the sidewalk. They just put a frying pan on the sidewalk and cracked an egg and cooked an egg back in the 80s. And I'm like, no, you can't just do that here. So I'm like, okay, what other ways can you break a stall? And the very last thing they mentioned on there was basically do a fast. And so, I'm already doing 23 hours. What's 48? And then so I did 72, and I was really amazed. I was really surprised that I was able to go 72 hours. In that time, though, right before I did the fast, I gained like 5 or 6 pounds right before. And I was like, and I hadn't changed anything on my diet. My body just started storing. And so I went on the fast, and in 72 hours, I had basically lost 4 pounds. That's with the 6 pounds gain. And I went down 4 pounds from what my number was before. So I'd lost like 12 pounds during the 3 days and then gained 2 back when I ate. So it was like a 10-pound loss. And that, kind of motivated me to keep on going. They tell you, you know, stay away from the scales, don't let that, be your thing. But you know what? You tell the fat man that he can't get on a scale, when he can finally get on a scale. That doesn't work. It's like, this is the first time, I can actually get on a scale and see a number. I'm getting on that scale. I want to know that. I want to see that number going down. It gets kind of, it plays them. You got to play a mind game, because sometimes you get on there, you gain a pound or two in one day. Other times you get on there like, but sometimes you get on there and you're like, how the heck did I drop 3 pounds in a day? You're not willing to actually grasp hold of, when you lose. You're more willing to see when gain weight, and you're like, oh, I just gained 3 or 4 pounds. But when you lose it, it's like, no, that can't happen. You're in denial. That couldn't happen. But I like seeing the scale go down. There's another reason why I'm watching the scale, because I made a pact with my older son when I started this, and a month into it, I said, hey, if I can match you in weight, I want you to join me in this way of eating. And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll do that. I was like, okay. Well, at the time I was 136 pounds heavier than he was. And in May, I decided to cut out diet soda. And my wife told him, it's like, your dad's not drinking, Diet Dr. Pepper, Diet Coke, and everything like that. And he's like, what? I mean, the color just went out of his face. He was like, oh my gosh, this is really on, he's he's really into this, and I'm in trouble, So, but I am so close. I'm getting so close, because I've lost 89 pounds, and so I've got, another, 47 pounds to match him. And I was kind of hoping that it would happen right before Christmas, but I wasn't going to make him join me right before Christmas. I wasn't going to do that to him. I was like, if I match him right before Christmas, I'll let him wait till the New Year, and let him make a New Year's resolution, to join me on this. So I'm hoping that I'll be there by then. But the way the weight loss, I was averaging about 4 pounds a week, going into this, and now I'm like I haven't really lost a whole lot this last week. I think I'm about the same. I think my body's going through another one of those adjustments where it's starting to try to protect itself and say, hey, you're doing, bad things to me, but I'm really not. They go into this survival mode. We have an awesome creation that doesn't want to do bad things. It wants to preserve itself. So it's basically like going into this, hibernation cycle, and it's just trying to store everything up again. But it's going to fall. It's going to start falling again. But it's just, at the very beginning, you're really excited because you're seeing all this weight loss. And then as you trudge along, it's like, oh, is this really worth it? I'm only losing a pound or 2 pounds this week. Should I keep going? And I can see why people like stop, and they get frustrated because it's like, all I'm doing is eating meat. Why do I want to keep, there's other things out there, so maybe I'll try, low carb and eat and introducing these things and stuff. But the thing is I'm not doing this solely for weight loss. I'm doing this for my health and getting rid of everything else that's going on in my body. Just getting rid of the inflammation, getting rid of the medications that I was putting in my body, getting rid of all these other things that are just detrimental to us is more important to me than I consider the losing the weight a benefit of what I'm doing for me, for my body. It's just a natural thing because I'm not putting all the crud in it. I mean, I trained my body for 53 years to eat crap. Well, I won't say 53 because I probably started this in gaining weight probably like around 1980. So I would say 43 years is when it basically started increasing. And I just, after you do that much training for that many years, your body is going to not just say, okay, let's just do what you're doing now. And after 43 years, it's like, what the heck are you doing to me? And why are you doing this to me? And you've done this other stuff to me for 43 years. Now you want me to, just start responding this way all of a sudden. And so, yeah, at the very beginning, you start dropping, and then so it slows down. But your body's going to regulate itself, and it's going to get to a point where you're going to be what you're supposed to be. And your weight's going to, people say, well, I can't lose too much weight. Well, if you're giving your body what it needs, you're not going to lose too much weight. You're going to get the nutrition you need. You're going to be where your body needs to be. And so that's what I want to get to. I want to get to the point where my body is just satisfied and where it's at. One thing I did realize, though, by doing this way of eating is and the whole reason why I named my channel Overcoming Carbs is because I did not know I had an addiction to carbs. I did not realize that was what my problem was. I just didn't know that. I just thought that I just ate what I ate because, that's just, who I or how I was wired. My wife would say things to me like, do you think that's like what you eat is like normal? Even though I was doing low carb and things, the amount of that I would do, I'd eat a lot of food. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, I eat till I'm full, and I'm not getting more than the, 20 or 30 carbs or whatever, whatever the number was. I'm like, this is all, the whole net carb thing. Oh, don't even go there. But I was like, this is all 20, under 20 or 30 carbs. And so I'm fine, but I'm still gaining weight because I'm eating 20 or 30 carbs of just crap and things that my body really can't utilize. So I found out that even though doing keto, even though doing low carb or anything like that, or doing all different kinds, I did a fat-free diet at one time back in my late 20s, so this would have been around the late 90s to early 2000s. The whole fat-free craze went through. Well, with the fat-free, what did they do when they took out the fat? They increased the sugar. So all this stuff that was like, 1 or 2 grams of fat were like 12 or 13 grams of sugar, where the other stuff that was like 15 or so grams of fat were 0 grams of sugar. So they just basically swapped. So your not getting the fat, but you're getting the sugar. So it was almost just an elimination diet, but same type of thing where you're eliminating the fat instead of the carbs, and so you just eat like 200, 300 carbs but no fat. So your body just uses all the carbs up, but it stores it once you use up what it wants. So any of the excess carbs is going to throw it into fat. So it's like, yeah, I lost some weight with the fat free, but not that much. It was, it's minor. Um, but I found out that I did not have an off switch. Um, my brain was wanting the fix from the sugar, from the carbs. And as anything, any kind of addiction is the more you eat the carbs or the more that the fix is made with your dopamine, the more it gets dopamine resistance. And it requires more and more and more to make that fix in your brain. And so you get, I don't know, the dopamine resistance means that basically you just have less receptors. You're not producing less dopamine, but you're not receiving it. So you would eat more and more just to get your fix. Well, even though I was eating, less carbs, but I was, less net carbs, I was still needing to eat a lot just to get, that fix. So I was eating more quantity of food, but less carbs in it. And with going with carnivore, not having any carbs at all, my body would not get a fix. So you go through a withdrawal time, it's like, your brain has that dopamine and you're like, I gotta have this, I gotta have this. So when you start not giving it the carbs or the amount of carbs that it's wanting, then it slowly comes back down. It's just like the insulin resistance part. You have all this insulin built up in your body that your body doesn't know what to do with until you start reducing the amount that is required. And so it slowly gets that insulin drained out of your body because you're not producing more insulin to meet the requirements that you're eating. So it's using up what you have in your body. One thing I want to do on my next blood work is to find out where I am, my fasting insulin is. I mean, we all get our fasting glucose, but I want my doctor to do my fasting insulin, and I got to remember to ask her about that. But I want to know what my number is because I think it took me about 2 months to actually get through the hump of the whole wanting carbs. And, some people get in this diet and they do 30 days or they'll do 2 weeks and then they think, this is not working for me. Some people, depending on how long you've been training, like I've been training for 43 years. So there's no way that it was going to overcome, that whole carb addiction within a month. And I couldn't put that, limit on myself. It was like, well, if this doesn't happen in 30 days, then I'm stopping. Well, I'm doing this with my wife. So this is almost a rest of a life thing for her. This is just going to be her way of eating. So I was like, I can't expect it. I can't do that to myself. So I actually felt the difference probably within 2 months of, now I'm not having to need a carb. I did find that within that month, though, I was able to find an off switch. I was actually able to be satiated by what I ate and the more fat I had, because you can eat meat all you want, but if you don't have the fat with it, then you're not going to be satiated as much because it's just going to be your stomach's going to get full, but when you get the fat, you can only eat so much fat. I'm sorry, but there's no way. I mean, when I sit there and I'm like, oh, the fat tastes good, melted butter tastes good, even the beef tallow that's been rendered, it tastes good. But after you get to a certain point of it, you're like, I don't want any more. Because it gets, you're going, I don't think I can take another bite of this, So I actually got an off switch, and I've never had that in 43 years that I can remember. Yeah, I would get to a point where I almost got sick, from what I ate, and it's like, and then it was just bad. But now I can actually eat, but when I first started this, I would eat maybe half a steak, whereas I would eat almost 2 steaks when I was preparing them. And with the whole cutting out all the other stuff, it was just actually to be able to get full. And so I was able to see that I don't need carbs to actually fulfill my needs of my body. And I overcame that whole thing with the carb addiction by not putting it in my body. Now, with any other addiction, like I know you said that one time that you had a problem with alcohol, and your alcohol is not any different than my sugar or carb addiction. But to you and I, moderation is not something that we can do. You can't go up to an alcoholic and say, have a drink. Just this one time, just, have a drink. Because I used to drink back in my 20s. And I know that once you take that one thing, all of a sudden you got that dopamine fix, or the dopamine hits. And once you take one, it's like, can you really shut it off? And if you take another one, then you take another one until you actually get that dopamine fix. So the same thing is with sugar, or anything that even substitutes sugar. If you get that sweet taste in your mouth, your mind doesn't know that what you're giving it is sugar. It just knows that it's a sweet sensation. So even doing an artificial sweetener or a sugar substitute or anything like that is tricking your mind. That's one reason why I stopped the diet soda, because I wasn't able to turn that off. And because I kept on getting the fix from the drink that I was drinking. I could sit there and drink, a 44-ounce cup of diet soda and suck that thing down in lickety split, but I can't sit there and drink that same size of water and suck it down. It's actually, I actually, quench my thirst now instead of just wanting something sweet. So you and I mean, if I went out there and I took a bite of, let's say I even took an M&M or something and took a bite of it, do you think it'd be worse than the Lay's commercial? You can't eat just one. Because I would take that M&M and I'd be like, oh, that was good. And then all of a sudden, by the time I'm done, I've eaten a whole bag of M&Ms because my body doesn't know how to shut it off. And it'd be the same way with alcohol. By the time you're done, you got a fifth of a bottle of whiskey halfway gone or something, because you just don't realize it. And I'm not saying that people are bad if they cheat or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. It's that I cannot cheat. Because if I cheated, I wouldn't know how to stop. So if I don't know how to stop, then why would I put myself through that? I mean, yes, I've been tempted. Believe me, I've been tempted. And I mean, but the temptation is totally different now, because I could go into someplace before, like into a convenience store or anything, and then, it's like you see something and you just grab it. And then you eat it. But now I can actually go, I don't need that because of what it will do. I don't want to taste that because of what it will do to me. I don't want to do that because there's like a no return policy once I start. I'd have to start all over again. But people, I mean, I understand. Believe me, I understand what it can do to you. You see the commercials. I was even watching a commercial the other day, and it had a, slice of cake. And I looked over at my wife. I said, man, that looks good, And she looked at me. She goes, do you think you'll ever eat another piece of cake again? I said, I'm not going to say I'm not going to ever eat a piece of cake again. But until I get to where my body is where it needs to be, I'm not going to do it. Because right now, if I did that, then who knows where I'll end up. And I mean, yeah, you hear about people that say, well, they avoid going to like a wedding or they avoid going to a family function and things like that because um, of doing carnivore. You don't have to avoid it. Enjoy life, just because you don't have to go to some place or some kind of gathering or some place that people are a family reunion, a wedding or something like that. I mean, if you can't handle not if that temptation is just too great, then yeah, don't go. But don't center your life around food. Don't make food your ultimate reason why you don't do something, because you're giving it the focus.
And then it's still controlling your life, right?
Yes, yes. When you avoid it, you're just saying, you have control of who I am. So go to the functions, go to the things, but just, just know that you don't need it. I mean, yeah, you're going to have people say, hey, don't you want some of this? Or don't you try this cake or something? There was something I went to and somebody says, hey, can I make, it's not my time to eat. I'm one meal a day, so it went to this lunch thing and they're like, can I make you a plate? And I'm like, no. And I wasn't trying to be rude, but I'm like, I not just, I've just told the person, I said, it's not anything to do. I appreciate you offering, but right now it's not my time to eat and I'm not going to participate, but I'm here and I love being around all all the people. But right now, don't take offense that I'm not eating. It's not that the food is bad or I think it's bad or I think that it's going to hurt me or anything. It's just that right now I eat certain times a day, and this is not my time. So I'm fine right now. I appreciate it. Just let's don't worry about me. I'm good. And it's the same thing. Like if you go to a wedding, and stuff, you see people. Yes, the temptation's going to be tremendous to do it. It's going to be something where you're going, oh, I could just eat a piece of cake just today. But you got to think about, is it really worth it? I mean, you stopped eating these things because of a reason. Are you really going to go, I'm going to eat this just because? Just because everybody else? Or, I mean, I don't know. My dad always said, you just need to do moderation. To an addict, there is no such thing as moderation.
Yeah, it's all or it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, but people that aren't addicted to things don't understand that. Everybody doesn't have an addiction, but to those of us who do have one, it's like when you have an addiction, you're like, I could do it, but are the outcomes worth doing it? Because there's no off switch for me. I'll eat a piece of cake and then I'll go get another one. And I'll go get. I already can see it in my mind that if I were to have a piece of cake, then I would not be satisfied with just a piece of cake. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's just me. But you know what? It took so much to realize that. It took time to realize that, and you're not going to be able to realize that in a couple of weeks. You're gonna realize it within 30 to 60 days of doing this, and that's what my main message in my channel is about. Is if I can do it, if I can basically overcome this problem, then you have the strength to do it. It's going to take time, and you're not on your own. I don't know, Dave, I don't know where, your belief system or anything like that, but I'm a Christian. And there's one thing in life that I know is that I am not on my own. And when I have those times where I'm just like struggling with the temptation, then I know I can go to him and he will give me the strength. But I have to call on him. He's not going to just say, hey, I'm pulling you away from that. He's not going to just say, um, he's, I think about Job, and the story of Job is that basically Satan is having a conversation with God, and he's like, hey, Satan says, uh, let me deal with Job. Let me tempt him, and I will get him to deny your name. And so Job was faced with so many things. I mean, his wife and his family were gone. All his livestock was gone. All his crops were gone. He had nothing. Even his friends came up to him and said, you must be doing something wrong. There must be something going on in your life that you need to repent, or you need to basically, call upon God to say that you're sorry for whatever you did, because all these bad things are happening to you because of something you did. And basically what happens is God takes that hedge of protection away from Job and then allows all these things to happen to basically say to Satan, you can't take away Job from me. So all this stuff happens, and he sits down, he says, and this is amazing thing about this story, is that he sits there and says, regardless of everything that's gone on in my life, I praise you. And I thank you for everything that you've given and everything you've taken away from me, because I wouldn't have it without you. And so when I see these temptations in my life, I thank God that he led me to this way of eating, because it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't something that it wasn't just something I happened upon. And it took this way of eating for me to realize that carbs had a control on my life. And nothing was going to show me that. Nothing anybody said, nothing anybody, if somebody like tried to say, don't eat that cake, or don't eat that dessert, or don't eat that, that salad or whatever. You don't need all that dressing on that salad. You could have talked to me until you're blue in the face. But until I was led down this path, then I was not going to realize that I needed this. And God said, hey, Ron, do this, and you will see what has got control of you, because it's not me. You're not allowing me to control you. But here's this situation, and here is this. Watch this video, because anything could have come up. When you do a search on something, anything could come up, and that came up. And so I don't think it's by chance that I came across it. I don't think it's just by just circumstance. There's a reason why I came across it. And it's because God had to show me what was in control of me. And once I got rid of that control, then he was able to show me other things. And I contemplated about doing my own channel and everything. And, I started it in August. And I was like, who wants to listen to a fat man talking about this way of eating and not actually show anything? So I hear people saying they start it in, they start their channel, they start their documenting of this. As soon as they start the diet, or start this way of eating, and they immediately start putting it out there. But I couldn't do it because I would feel like, who would want to listen to me? And I was going, I battled with it for a couple of months, and I finally said, God, do you want me to do this? Do you want me to share this? And it's like, I talked to my wife, and I was like, do you really think I should even put it out there? Would anybody listen to me? And she's like, you know what? You're going to find the people that want to hear you, that are interested in your story. Because you know what? You've overcome a lot. And that's part of the reason I was like, well, what can I name my channel? And I came up with something. I can't even tell you what the name was. And she goes, well, that might put people off by that name. So I'm like, well, what do you think about overcoming carbs? Because I've overcome this addiction in my life. And she goes, that sounds great. Do that. And so I'm like, okay. And so I put it out there, and I just started, doing a little thing, an introduction thing. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Money is a big deal right now. People are really strapped, for money. And I'm constantly looking at ads, and I'm constantly looking, to find the deal, because, I can't go out and buy grass fed, grass finished, buy, or, order it online or whatever and have it delivered. There's no way I can afford, anywhere up to like $18 a pound for meat. And there's a lot of people out there that like don't do this way of eating because of the cost. They're afraid of the cost. But here's the thing. I've gone to one meal a day. So I'm eating, if I eat a 1 pound steak for $15 or whatever, that's $15 that I'm eating per day. So that's $450 a month, basically. But I've got 3 other people in my house that I got to think of. I have my wife doing this. I have my 2 sons. They're not doing this way of eating, but, I got to feed them. So how am I going to do this in, with money I have? It was the really biggest thing I ever saw was Amanda from Carnivorous Meat. And she showed a video where she spent like $1,500 on food in April of last year or something like that. And that it went down to like $600 or $700 or something for the 2 of them. But it's like $1,500 for 2 people. And then she went down to like 700, and I was like, holy cow, how do you spend $1,500 in 1 month for 2 people? But it's real easy to do, especially if you're eating out. So I go out there and I look at the ads, and I'm trying to find, what deals are going on. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to put these out there because, it's one of my lower viewed videos, I would say, that I put out there. But the thing is that you can do this, and you don't have to have the highest quality meat. You just have to get rid of everything else. You have to get rid of the carbs. You have to get rid of the seed oils. You have to get rid of all of this stuff that creates this inflammation. And just getting, the meat and the unprocessed foods is, so important with this. And, you hear people all the time, like I did it, I lost weight by eating, hamburger. You do hamburger. Isn't that basically your meal? It's hamburger? So that's like, here, I don't know what it is in Japan, but here it's like, $4 to $5 a pound. It can be $3 a pound at some point. But you can go anywhere from $2.97 all the way up to $7 a pound for hamburger here. But like, and the people put like a comment, they want to see meal prep. I only eat 1 meal a day. What kind of meal prep can I show you? But I was like, the thing that we do, or the thing that I do is that I look at all the ads and then I go buy meat and we meal prep. Like one day, I'll spend 3 or 4 hours in the kitchen cooking meat. And then what we'll do is that it's almost fast food at that point because I have all this meat cooked that's in my refrigerator, and my wife can go, my type 1 diabetic can go, my other son, if he's just wanting something to eat with his other thing, they can go grab a steak, heat it up, and they've got a steak. I have roast in there. Like right now in my refrigerator, I've got a pork roast that I cook. I've got 3 or 4 different kinds of beef roast that I cooked. I've got a few steaks in there. I've got a 15-pound strip loin that I bought from Costco, and it was $7.79 a pound for this 15-pound strip loin. I'm going to be cutting that up because the date on it's like, in a few days. But I bought it because you can't find, New York strips or strip loin for $7.79 a pound. So I bought, they were selling the already cut ones for I think around $10.50 a pound, $10.49 a pound. So I'm like, I'm going to put it, it's $115 for this 15-pound roast. And so I'm going, it's like 15 and a half pounds, something like that. And so I was like, I'm going to cut this thing up. Man, I'm going to make my own steaks out of it. So I've got that sitting there waiting for me to cook. But the thing is that you can do this. You can get yourself a pork loin at $1, was it $1.97 a pound or something like that, and cut him up because they sell those little pork loin chops for $2.90 a pound. You save yourself $1 a pound and cut it up. But you can do this way of eating and not break the bank. And I do all the meat cooking and everything, get it all prepared, but my wife does all the cleanup, so it's a win-win. I don't have to clean it all up. She does the cleanup part of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's like I don't want people to be afraid of this way of eating because of money. Because I probably save more money now we don't have the food waste. I was throwing away vegetables and everything that would go bad, and they were constantly being thrown away. We wouldn't even eat a whole bag of salad or whatever, and it would be, you get the liquefied salad, in a few days, and you have to throw it away. Yeah, it was only like $3 or $4 for that, big bag that you can get from Costco or Sam's, but it was still being wasted. And if you don't eat all the meat that you cook, you can throw it in the freezer and then heat it up, later on. You're not going to waste it. You really can't throw vegetables into a freezer. You can, but it's not the best thing in the world when you go and thaw those things out, So, but you don't have to, worry about waste.
And I think the other important thing is most people are going to save money on medications and stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not taking the blood pressure medicine now. My wife stopped taking blood pressure medicine. She only takes 2 things now, and that's her beta blocker and her thyroid replacement. So we want to get to a point where her body's more receptive to the thyroid medication, so she doesn't have to take as much. Because right now she's taking 120 milligrams of Armour just to get her numbers right. And so with that much thyroid medication, she has a side effect of her heart going, racing. So she takes the beta blocker to reduce her heart rate. Well, with the beta blocker reducing her heart rate, she can't really burn that much as far as, what her body needs. It's at a slower heart rate. So no matter what she does, she just is constantly at a certain heart rate. So her metabolism slowed down by the beta blocker. And we want to get her off the beta blocker, but to do that, we have to get her more receptive to the thyroid. And that's one thing we're hoping for when we go look this next time, is that her numbers are basically high. If her numbers are high, then we can reduce her and then go a little bit longer. And then maybe in about 3 months or so, then after being reduced, then we can take away some of the beta blockers. But she takes a beta blocker in the morning and a beta blocker at night. She takes 60 milligrams of thyroid in the morning, 60 milligrams at night. but we might get to a point where we don't have to worry about the beta blocker. If we can get the beta blocker off and she's taking less thyroid, then she'll probably start losing weight like never before if we can get her off the beta blocker. But she's been taking beta blockers since she had her thyroid removed, even before that, because she was having, when she found out she had hyperthyroidism, she had 140 beats a minute on her heart rate, and she was 97% saturated with the thyroid hormone in her body in the scan. So we want to get her to where she's not having to do it, not for monetary reasons, but for health reasons. I don't want her. The only thing I can envision for her to be on would be just the thyroid replacement, because she's not producing thyroid at all. Her thyroid's gone, so she's going to have to do that. But if she doesn't have to take as much to keep her levels normal, then we can do so much more with her. And so that's what we're looking for. That's one reason why she's doing magnesium and everything like that, to help with her absorption of all that. But anyway, money should not be your reason why you're not doing this. I was scared at first, but I'm 5 months into this now, and money has not been a problem, because I try to do as frugal as I possibly can. No, I'm not eating hot dogs and things like that. That's what some people, they just eat hot dogs. I'm like, no, don't go there. That's still, a processed type of food. But I want to do it as clean as I can. And, no medication, no, all the wasteful on the food, it's a win-win. Now, if you're going to start this thing, don't jump into it, because it's going to do some wacky things to you. When I jumped in, I'm, all or nothing kind of guy. Of course, I got 440 pounds by being all or nothing. So I jumped into this way of eating, and my body was like, "What are you doing?" So everything started like flushing in every sense of the word. So if you're going to do this, do a gradual transition for the first week. I would say just slowly increase your meat, decrease your other things until you're just solely meat, because your body's going to do some crazy things to you, and you're going to be like, "Oh, this is terrible. I'm not going to want to, I don't want to do this anymore." But if you do it slowly, then I'm not going to say you're not going to have it, but the symptoms will be lessened. Another thing is, I never heard of oxalate dumping, or what, like, what the heck's an oxalate? I never even heard of it before I started this way of eating. Like, oxalate, that sounds like something, happens to, something that's pulling a plow. But, what's an oxalate? So I started researching on oxalate. I was like, man, I was putting a ton of oxalates in my body. I didn't even realize it. And the first weekend after I started this, I had symptoms. I had like gout-like symptoms. And what that is I get like this chill. There's like chills that would come over your body, but and you weren't running a fever. But I was like, what is going on? And, but I didn't have any pain. I didn't have any like swelling or anything, but I had these chills. And I was like, man, this is miserable. And it went on for 24 hours. And I was just underneath the blanket on my bed, just shivering and everything. And my wife's like, "Are you okay? Are you dying?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm not dying, but just I'll get through this. Just give me some time. I'll be fine." She's like, "I don't know. Should we take you to the doctor? Should we take you to the emergency room? Because this is just crazy." I'm like, "No, I'm fine. Just leave me alone." And so the next day I was fine. After 24 hours, I was like, "Okay, I'm okay." And so I was like looking at oxalates and everything, and one of the symptoms of an oxalate dump is chills. And I was like, holy cow, I was having an oxalate dump, because this happened within a week. And I was like, oh my gosh. I thought, it was like my gout's coming back, and I'm having all, like, I'm eating too much meat. Oh no, and a lot of people will probably think that. A lot of people will think, like you're having, pain in certain place, or you're having, chills and things. You're not having a gout attack, you're having basically an oxalate dump, and they're real similar, real similar. So that's what I'm saying. Take it slow and don't make your body freak out, because you don't know what will be up the road from you when you start this. And eventually you're going to be like, hey, I'm good. And you'll have all the benefits of, your body will be receptive to all kinds of things at that point.
Hmm. Very, very wise words. So Ron, can you tell us the name of the channel again?
Yeah,
How can
it's
people
overcoming.
get to your channel?
Yeah, it's overcoming carbs. It's the same name on Instagram and Facebook. You can send me a friend request on Facebook, and I'll be glad to bring you on there, because everything I post to YouTube, I post to Facebook, so it's there. Um, like that's another thing I was going to mention. 3 weeks ago, I had 100 subscribers. Today, I reached 200. So in 3 weeks, I gained 100 subscribers to my YouTube channel. I have five. Probably about 3 weeks ago, I probably had 60 friends on Facebook. I have like 560 now, and there's 560 people that are actually seeing my stuff come up. On Instagram, I think I have like 39. I don't know. I think Instagram's probably dying. But there's not much out there. I'll put a reel out on Instagram and I'll get maybe 7 views, but then I put it out on Facebook and I get like 100 views in the same amount of time, and then you get like 400 views on YouTube of the same short, and it's just nuts. So, but that's where Overcoming Carbs, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Awesome. So Ron, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey. Thank you.
I appreciate it so much, Dave. I really thank you for this, conduit that I can share with your viewers.